Okay, can you see the year in review slide? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. So, hello, I'm Stephanie Weisenbach, Nature Alberta's Executive Director for the past 2 years now. I want to thank you for joining us for our annual general meeting today. I'm really excited to provide you with a year in review presentation this evening because we have done some incredible things this year, and I'm excited to share those details with you. As you may already know, Nature Alberta is a nonprofit organization dedicated to being a strong voice and active champion for the greater appreciation and conservation of nature in Alberta. We envision Alberta's natural heritage being widely enjoyed, deeply appreciated, and thoroughly protected. Everything we do is rooted in our vision and our mission. Most of what I'm presenting today is straight from our annual report. So if you are interested in learning more about any of our programs or initiatives, please visit our website and you can find the annual report in the drop-down menu under About Us or type in the URL listed here, which is naturealberta.ca/annual-reports. The annual report is a testament of how our community, connected through a love of nature, elevates our small team to have an immense impact across Alberta. This annual reporting period was the first year guided by our new strategic plan, developed in the fall of 2024 by board members, staff, and community members. The 2025-27 strategic plan includes three main goals. One, run impactful and efficient interwoven programs to achieve our mission. Two, expand and deepen reach into communities. And three, demonstrate a commitment to organizational evolution. Each goal includes priority initiatives, performance measures, and qualitative indicators to ensure we remain dedicated to achieving our goals and fulfilling our mission. The priority initiatives under Goal 1 provide clear strategic support from the board to continue with our key program areas, including 1, support grassroots nature organizations across the province to connect our community through a love of nature. 2, inspire the next generation of conservationists through Nature Kids events. And 3, increase environmental literacy by sustainably publishing a high-quality quarterly Nature Alberta magazine. Our work over the past year has successfully advanced initiatives under each goal. Our nature network is intertwined into every facet of what we do naturally. Nature Alberta was started by 6 naturalist groups who came together seeing the need for a provincial voice. Today, Nature Alberta supports 50 grassroots nature organizations across the province as member clubs of our Nature Network program. We provide a number of different supports for each club, including everything from an affordable liability insurance policy to a shared Zoom account for online meetings and presentations. We collaborated with the Nature Network to present the 2024-25 Nature Network Speaker Series, which was a wild success, broadcasting 14 educational Zoom presentations on a variety of natural history and conservation topics to over 1,000 total live audience members. Many presentations were recorded and continue to reach even more people through our YouTube playlist, where this year's videos collectively have over 2,300 views. This has actually increased growth in our YouTube channel. Just a couple years ago, I think we had 4 followers, and now we have over 500.
Wow.
Nature Alberta hosted 2 annual BioBlitzes, resulting in over 178,000 observations being recorded by 1,415 participants. The May species count initiated in 1976, with many of the count circles hosted by our Nature Network member clubs, had a total of 477 participants in the bird count who spent 1,300 hours counting 166,709 individual birds from 264 species, plus 9 additional count week species. An interesting find in this year's results was the sighting of 2 eastern bluebirds, which have only been recorded 3 times since the count started. The Alberta Biodiversity Challenge, initiated in 2020, is a bit newer, had a total of 11,730 observations of 1,886 species across Alberta, recorded by 938 observers. Similar to last year, Edmonton won the Edmonton-Calgary rivalry for number of observations and species, but Calgary won for overall participation. Nature Alberta built on our partnership with MacEwan University professors to address the information gap of the data deficient Franklin's ground squirrel, promoting the use of citizen science to submit observations. Together, through our collaborative initiatives, we reached over 7,000 individuals online and another 2,500 people at 11 in-person events to raise awareness and encourage participation in this project. As a result, 47 observers and identifiers were able to confirm 53 observations of Franklin's ground squirrels in Alberta this summer, assisting researchers in their work to uncover the mystery of this disappearing species. Our regional representative board members formed supportive connections with their local clubs and brought forward perspectives from across the province to guide Nature Alberta's important work. We recruit content experts to write about current conservation issues in the Nature Alberta magazine, and we share timely calls to action on our website, social media, and through email campaigns to educate and empower our members and supporters to conserve our natural heritage. Nature Alberta firmly opposed changes in policy which are detrimental to the sustainability of our wildlife populations, our natural spaces, and the preservation of biodiversity within our province. We are the regional coordinator of the Important Bird Area Caretaker Program and are supporting the transition of some areas to key biodiversity area classification and supporting the active caretakers of those areas as well. Nature Alberta is also involved in bird-friendly cities, advancing urban conservation efforts to reduce threats to birds, increase habitat protection, and raise awareness. We helped the bird-friendly Edmonton team lead the Edmonton City Bird Vote to award the black-billed magpie city bird status with over 40,000 votes for overall campaign. Nature Alberta board member Dr. Paul Thibault led important outreach related to irrigation expansion projects. So I will now invite Paul to unmute and speak for a few minutes about these conservation initiatives.
Thank you, Steph. So I'm going to talk about two main topics, the proposed irrigation expansion and a newer topic, which is proposed amendments to the Water Act. And the two are quite tightly related. So I'll first talk about the irrigation expansion. And I'll do like Cheryl, I will be reading this one so it doesn't take too long. So Alberta is embarking on a large irrigation expansion project with new reservoirs and additional irrigated areas. So one question is, will there be enough water available to sustain this expansion, particularly in light of climate change? The government of Alberta and irrigation districts justified this expansion using what could be called the 4 pillars of water availability. These pillars are discussed in the article, and you can see the front pages on your screen there in the Nature Alberta magazine. And there was also a much more detailed report on the Nature Alberta website, which is based on a 1-year analysis of this problem. So what are the 4 pillars? The 4 pillars that the government and the irrigation districts use to justify this is that, first of all, the underusage of allocated water. Irrigators, irrigation districts have water allocated in their licenses, and they say that they have not used all that allocated water, and that is absolutely correct. They have not used all that water. They also say that they can use water more efficiently, uh, which they have. They have increased their efficiency quite a bit, so they have been quite active in that. Now, the two other ones are more difficult. They say that they will address climate change by adding and expanding reservoirs. And they say that they will, and that, so they will address climate change, and they say they support this by computer modeling that show that sufficient water will be available. Now, those two are under much more debate because there's been different modelers with different type conclusions. So that's still an open question for some people at least. Now, the other thing I'll mention, which is not mentioned in the article, but I think are important, those four pillars I mentioned are terms that I coined, but there are three other pillars that are important that are more well known, and they're called the three pillars of water sustainability. And those three pillars are economic, social, and environmental. These types of pillars are important for many areas where there are environmental concerns. They must be addressed by the government, and environmentalists must also keep them in mind in their advocacy. So how are these three pillars relevant to the proposed irrigation expansion? Well, irrigation has obvious economic benefits, and it does help sustain the rural population. So you have there both the economic and social pillars, but there are some environmental impacts. Now, historically, this all came to a head after the 2001 drought, which some of us remember, uh, which prompted scientific studies to determine the flow required for a healthy aquatic life. Now, these studies indicated that healthy rivers require around 70 to 85% of the natural flow. The natural flow is the flow that would occur if humans were not there. In other words, it's the flow if we had no irrigation, no water consumption by humans, no dams, and so forth. These healthy flows are referred to as in-stream flow needs, IFNs. Now, applying these IFNs would have had the effect of substantially reducing irrigation, thereby having a negative economic and social impact. So a compromise was therefore reached by using what was called the water conservation objective, which was, well, it still is 45% of the natural flow. So that's quite a bit lower than the 70 to 85% that the river would really prefer. But by doing that 45% was really addressing these three pillars of water sustainability. Unfortunately, senior irrigators, and that's pretty much the irrigation districts that obtained their license before 2005, were and are not required to abide by the WCO. So as a result, flows in the Oldman Bow, South Saskatchewan rivers have not often been able to meet the WCO during irrigation season, particularly in the recent dry years. So the implementation of the WCO compromise has not been successful. So that is not good for those rivers. Now this brings us to the Water Act amendments. This is quite recent and they haven't been adopted yet, but they're being debated in the legislature right now. Alberta is currently proposing amendments to the Water Act of 1999. The hope, at least the hope of the environmentalists and the public, was that the amendments would have included clauses that would require senior irrigators to follow the WCO, those water conservation objectives. Unfortunately, the proposed amendments will do exactly the opposite by making water more easily available to irrigators. Now, all this sounds very grim. So is there any good news in all of this? Well, the Red Deer River flows are currently healthier when compared to the natural flow. So the Red Deer River is a healthy river right now. Although a major irrigation project is being proposed at MDUK special areas near the Saskatchewan border, this will involve junior irrigators who will have to follow the WCO. The second good news is that the proposed amendments do include standardized reporting and monitoring, which will be important in making sure that license requirements are being followed, including those WCOs for junior irrigators. So what we have is mainly grim environmental news with a pinch of good news. There's been numerous letters that have been sent to government along with responses to surveys by environmental groups and concerned citizens to address both proposed irrigation expansion and the Water Act amendments. And on the screen, you have a couple of those letters that have been sent, and there have been others, including responses to surveys. So that is my report.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul. Thanks for the deep dive into the important conservation issue of irrigation. Now I would like to invite our board president back to present on the important conservation initiatives she has spearheaded this past year.
Thank you, Steph, and thank you, Paul, so much. I'm going to spin out of all this information you've presented because you are just emphasizing how important collaboration is when we look at these big picture issues that are in the province surrounding conservation. So thank you so much for all the work you've put into that, Paul. It's really appreciated. So my presentation is called Conservation and Advocacy Through Collaboration. So this past year, Nature Alberta continues to collaborate and support conservation initiatives on many important issues affecting wildlife and wild places in Alberta. By joining forces with other conservation networks, organizations, and individual experts, we've been able to reach a broad audience throughout the province and beyond. Following principles of incorporating best science, multidisciplinary expert advice, democratic consultation, and strategic planning processes, we've been able to collectively present relative and timely information on important conservation issues. So, Steph, I'm going to have to ask you to go. Click. Next slide. So, for my part, I've been volunteering with several collaborative initiatives to help bolster our conservation outreach. And one of Nature Alberta's top conservation priorities is species at risk. With the Alberta government's introduction of the draft Upper Smoky Subregional Plan earlier this year, it became clear that this plan was no longer about caribou conservation as it was originally intended, and instead was a vehicle for driving increased industrial development in this region of the province. So in January of this past year, myself and Aaron McCloskey, who previously represented Nature Alberta on the Chinchaga Caribou Task Force, voluntarily participated to represent Nature Alberta with a collective group of environmental nonprofit organizations, ENGOs, to address the implications of this draft proposal. This collective task force consists of policy directors, conservation specialists, executive members, volunteers, caribou biologists from CPAWS Northern Alberta, Alberta Wilderness Association, the Alberta chapter of the Wildlife Society, EcoJustice, and the David Suzuki Foundation. And our objective is to evaluate, analyze, and raise awareness about the potential impacts of that the draft plan will have on two of the three last remaining southern mountain caribou herds in Alberta. Essentially, the Red Rock Prairie Cree herd and the Narroway herd will be extirpated due to loss of critical habitat based on the potential outcomes of the Upper Smoky Subregional Plan. So both of these herds are dependent on 65% of intact biophysical habitat or old growth forests, and this plan would remove that. Next slide, Steph, sorry. Efforts to encourage information sharing, public participation, and engagement surrounding this issue have been encouraged through our collective network. We've created a caribou conservation landing page to collect and share relevant information on this initiative, alongside of updated social media posts. We've participated and encouraged our membership to attend related public engagement sessions, both in person and online, along with writing letters to our respective MLAs and ministers. Through the collaboration, we've assisted in creating and sharing survey engagement guide for public use. We've helped share and circulate the detailed report and executive summary critiquing the draft Upper Smoky Subregional Plan. And we've signed on to multiple letters expressing concern over the Upper Smoky Subregional Plan's implication. Letters were directed towards industry, the Sustainable Forest Initiative, and provincial first ministers. Next slide, Steph. Additionally, we facilitated a presentation by retired Alberta wildlife biologist and caribou researcher Kirby Smith He's with the Alberta chapter of the Wildlife Society, and thanks to Lou Carbon, who's our representative with the Alberta Conservation Association, we were able to give a presentation at this year's annual general meeting for the ACA. Our fall magazine also has a detailed examination of the history and impacts of these southern mountain caribou herds, also courtesy of Kirby Smith. And this past week, our ENGO collaborated to release a joint statement in response to the final Upper Smoky Subregional Plan, and that's now available on our website. So I encourage you to visit our caribou conservation page to see the latest updates and press releases regarding the plan. Next slide, sorry. This past year, I've also been sitting as the provincial lead with Nature Canada, and over the course of the year, we have participated in multiple engagements centered around nature as a nation-building project. Organizations from across the country have shared their mission, vision, goals, core values, aspiration, and challenges to emphasize to our policymakers that nature needs to be properly restored, protected, and funded. We signed on to letters to both federal and provincial first ministers to emphasize how nature can build a stronger nation. Next slide. Sorry. These engagements accumulated at the 2025 Nature on the Hill event in Ottawa, hosted by Nature Canada. 70 delegate organizations from across Canada attended this 3-day gathering on Parliament Hill, and both Stephanie, our executive director, and myself were able to participate in different engagements. Next slide. Here we carried key messages to our elected members of Parliament, ministers, secretaries of states regarding supporting, protecting, and funding nature. So a bit of a photo montage there from some highlights. Next slide, Steph. And as part of the 2025 Nature on the Hill event, I was invited to speak about species at risk with the Honorable Minister Stephen Guilbeault, and in reference to the targets and implementation of the 2030 Nature Strategy. Here I was able to further emphasize the importance of cooperation and collaboration when addressing species at risk, and specifically mention what the southern mountain caribou herds, the impacts to them. And last slide. So this is a little piece of my backyard. We live very close to Crown Land in the boreal mixedwood forest, so we spend a lot of time out there. And this photo here I took, I think, just about a week ago. But thank you to everybody who's a part of Nature Alberta, and thank you for your support for our guiding mission to be a strong voice for the appreciation and conservation of Alberta's natural environment. Real lasting change for nature and people comes through collaboration, informed science, and shared purpose. So I look forward to meaningfully participating in finding solutions to the ongoing conservation challenges in our province. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Cheryl, for the update on the many important initiatives you have been leading for Nature Alberta and for doing such an exceptional job of bringing our community's voice to the table. So moving on to our Nature Kids program, we inspire the next generation of naturalists. We provide schools and families educational resources, ideas for activities and crafts, and endless fun facts. Family nature nights hosted on summer evenings at parks across Alberta create up close and personal moments of connection for kids and their families in their own backyard, building memories and fostering a lifelong love of nature. Nature Alberta's Nature Kids engaged over 2,000 participants with nature programming at 23 events, collaborating with an amazing 45 community partners in 12 municipalities across Alberta. The 45 community partners is always where I am just amazed at the support of all of the different organizations across many different fields. Everyone's just super passionate and excited to get out there and connect families with nature, and it's really inspiring to be a part of. And we even planted trees and shrubs to renaturalize green spaces and enhance wildlife habitat in the process. This was a successful year for our Nature Kids program, starting with the kickoff of a 5-year project, the Nature Kids Forest Ecology Project, funded by the Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta. The aim of this project is to enhance Alberta's forest resources through public education and awareness, increasing knowledge of forest ecology, and engaging the public in citizen science activities, leading to improved wildlife inventory and forest management. And we expanded the accessibility of many resources as well through a French translation project. The Snow Goose Festival continues to be a phenomenal event with meaningful impact. Nature Alberta collaborates with 3 community partners in Edmonton to include about 200 newcomers to Canada in full-day field trips to participate in the festival. This year, we were able to hire 2 temporary Nature Kid program assistants, and each of them had the opportunity to lead a bus tour on the Saturday and Sunday for the festival. I asked Lorena to write down some notes about her experience, and I wanted to share that with you today. So Lorena says, I had a really great time being a tour bus leader for the Snow Goose Festival. The groups that I led were from the Catholic Social Services Organization, and all of the individuals on my bus tour were newcomers to Canada. We had tons of fun despite there being some language barriers, with about 4 different languages and a limited knowledge of English among the participants. But thanks to the help of interpreters and family members who could translate, we were able to communicate and give them a really great experience out in nature at the festival. The Strathcona Wilderness Center was our first stop, and we saw a porcupine strutting along the forest path that we were on. And we also saw a weasel. I had fun learning that weasels are pretty common in many of the countries that our participants were from, and so they weren't super excited to see a weasel, whereas all the Canadians were very excited to see such a rare creature. The second day when we went to the Strathcona Wilderness Center, we saw a red-sided garter snake. Our interpreter picked up the garter snake, and we had a fun time telling participants that it was not poisonous and that they did not have to worry, unlike many of the snakes found in their home countries. They had an absolute blast having those close-up wildlife interactions. It was a wholesome experience for all parties, and I really enjoyed the cultural exchange. That was Lorena Nieuwenhout, Nature Kids program assistant. So moving on to our magazine, since 1970, Nature Alberta has published 55 volumes of Nature Alberta magazine. Articles published in the Nature Alberta magazine cover all aspects of our work, from examining conservation issues to supporting citizen science initiatives, to highlighting grassroots nature organizations, and most importantly, inspiring everyone, especially nature kids, to get outdoors. This year, we transitioned to a paid contracted editor-in-chief to ensure the sustainable production of the high-quality magazine. We reached a wider audience through a variety of initiatives, which resulted in an average of over 3,500 readers perusing each quarterly issue in print and online. As part of the Nature Kids Forest Ecology Project, Nature Alberta attended teachers' conventions where we engaged with 431 educators, providing them with educational resources for their classrooms, including the free digital Nature Alberta magazine. We were honored to collaborate with macro photographer Dara Ojo. Dara's incredible photography, featured in the spring 2025 issue, shows arthropods up close, invoking empathy and small acts to conserve and care about these tiny but mighty creatures. His artwork was featured in an exhibit at the Art Gallery of Alberta, and Dara invited us to promote the magazine at his pre-screening event of the PBS series Bugs That Rule the World that featured his very cool work. We also exhibited at the Wildlife Society's annual international conference, which was hosted in Edmonton this fall. We reached a wide variety of wildlife professionals, and I know the magazine moved them because many of them reached out to grab the cover that spoke most strongly to them. We had many great conversations and made many renewed and new connections with wildlife professionals who expressed keen interest in both reading the magazine and writing future articles. And now you're seeing triple of me, so I apologize for that. I'm just so excited to tell you even more about the magazine related initiatives this year. We hosted our first ever journalism field placement through Grant MacEwan in the spring, whereby Natan Leong contributed 160 hours of volunteer time to writing, editing, photography, and video drafting. This picture here is of us at Dara Ojo's event. And we also joined the Alberta Magazine Publishers Association, which provided great professional development opportunities. And we are now getting paid for each magazine issue we contribute to the Alberta Library e-magazine collection, which extends our magazine's digital reach to libraries across the province. Nature Alberta had 125 volunteers donate a total of 3,348 hours of their valuable time to support our mission towards the greater appreciation and conservation of nature in Alberta. This incredible time commitment is equivalent to having 2 additional full-time staff members. As ever, our volunteers bring invaluable contributions to Nature Alberta's programs and initiatives. So you can see there's lots of hours for publications. So that includes Natan's time as well as our proofreader volunteers who proofread the magazine before it's published, our amazing authors who volunteer their time to write about their knowledge and research those topics. And these hours don't even include the amount of time or any time contributed by our wildlife photographers who donate their amazing photos. So this is a very conservative estimate of the support from the community. Same with public outreach here. This is a lot of volunteers that are at our family nature nights, but it doesn't include the amount of time that an expert would put into putting together some of those activities that we do. So again, a conservative estimate there. Same with Zoom presentations and all of those things. The citizen science hours doesn't include all of the hours from participants in those BioBlitzes. This would be the time that our provincial compiler volunteer compiles all of the May species count data. So again, that's a conservative estimate. And then we have conservation advocacy volunteer time and an amazing contribution from our incredible board of directors as well as some of our fundraisers, birding led by Lou, and some of our 55th anniversary. Safety is a top priority for Nature Alberta. So to ensure our operations are run safely for everyone involved, including partners, participants, volunteers, and staff, we further developed and enhanced our health and safety management system this year, and were awarded a small employer certificate of recognition. Nature Alberta's success is made possible by our donors, champions, and supporters. Each and every one of you here today is supporting our organization through membership and participation in our annual general meeting. So thank you for being here today. We have increased our overall grant funds and continue to see the amazing support of individual donors. We also received support through unique initiatives, including our peer-to-peer birding for nature fundraiser, 1% for the planet, a birding lecture and field trip fundraiser led by Lou Carbon, We accepted our first ever securities donation from a dedicated donor, and we even received a large in-kind donation of recently published books. Supported by individual donations, we made a $50,000 contribution to the Nature Alberta Endowment Fund in 2024 to take full advantage of the Edmonton Community Foundation's endowment matching program for environmental organizations. With a new total balance of over $500,000 in the funds, Lenka will provide more details about the endowment funds shortly in her review of the financial statements. This year, was Nature Alberta's 55th anniversary, and so we celebrated with a nature-inspired event. Thanks to the generosity of attendees, matched 8-1 by our remarkable supporters, the Nature Alberta Endowment Fund grew by another $34,920 from this event alone. This is an incredible gift that will continue to grow and contribute to the long-term sustainability of our organization. We were honored to receive a legacy gift from Marjorie Lily Norris's estate, which will forever contribute to the organization's important work through endowment fund earnings. And just having a quick look at our continued growth in our audience. So you can see we continue to see moderate growth in our lifetime members as well as our email subscribers. Similarly, our website visits per month traffic continues to increase moderately, as well as our social media followers, which are now at over 23,000. And looking forward, our Nature Network speaker series this year has a phenomenal lineup. So I wanted to just let you know about that so you can register for these upcoming speakers. We kicked off this year's speaker series with a talk just before Halloween by Corey Olson, all about bats. So that was timely. The recording is on our YouTube channel now, so you can check that out. The next one coming up is on November 27th by Nick Carnes with the Royal Alberta Museum, talking all about shorthorn lizards and how they survive the prairie winters. And we'll hear from Melissa Penny in January, all about naturalizing an urban yard and her incredible biodiversity in her backyard. Olivia will teach us how to draw the owls of Alberta with the Nature Kids presentation in February. We'll hear all about fossil insects in February as well from Kano. And in March, we are delighted to welcome Chris Fisher to talk about birds, a prescription for happiness. And then in April, Paul is going to join us and tell us all about the irrigation report that he worked on and do a deep dive into the irrigation in the Alberta grasslands. So make sure that you keep an eye on our emails and socials and register for those upcoming Zoom presentations. And I also wanted to quickly ask everyone to get out their calendars and save the date. Our casino fundraiser, which contributes a great amount to our budget, is coming up on Friday, April 17th and Saturday, April 18th. We will be looking to fill all volunteer roles, including the general manager and alternate general managers, bankers, cashiers, tip runners, count room supervisors, and count room volunteers. Please reach out to me if you're interested in volunteering for any of these roles, and I can put you in touch with our casino chair. You can even add your intention to volunteer for the casino in the chat right now, and I'll record your name and reach out with the shifts so you can have first dibs at your ideal shift. And we'll have a fun Nature Alberta party volunteering at the casino. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording and then I'll take any questions before we move on.